smash that like button. Woo!
Like and subscribe.
This is it. This is the departure lounge for foot passengers. Into the tunnel. Disembarkation at Ullapool. From the bus station to the train station. Edinburgh Waverley. Platform 6, the train to King's Cross, train number 2. Oh, 12 minutes late and the platform change. Oh. Platform 3, which is where we came in, trains on top of each other. 5A, that's us. So we got off that train, ran over the bridge to catch the train that's going to stop here. Oh. That's our train leaving, up and over, onto this platform, and our train will arrive. And with less than 3 minutes between the two trains, here's our final train to Cambridge.
Welcome aboard this service to Cambridge. The next station is Cambridge.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. This is just going to be a very quick few minutes, just giving some detail about the Hebridean Way and our experiences on it. So just a few small subjects. First subject is walking, cycling, taking your car. Which do you choose? Well, all are perfectly possible and all have slightly different routes and slightly different experiences and slightly different ways to set up and problems and challenges they face. And obviously we walked it, which is similar in a way to cycling it. So these comments are really based around walking the Hebridean Way. Just a few very quick items about walking. The walking route is similar to the cycling route. Obviously they're on roads, the walkers are not on roads. For 50% of the time. 50% of the time they are on roads. And cyclists do benefit from, there's a cafe 4 kilometres east, so they can go to it, whereas a walker, you probably can't. But as walkers and cyclists, the two ferries that you have to catch, you have much more flexibility because you can pretty much book the night before and walk on. Whereas obviously for cars, they have to book in advance and take the chance of a cancellation if they get somewhere fairly quick. But as I said earlier, we walked, so I can really only talk to the experience of walking. Okay, the second main point is the route itself. There are loads of websites. There is a cycling route and there is a walking route, and they are different. The walking route, about 50% of it is actually on road. But the roads, they're single carriageway with passing spaces. Yes, I don't like walking on roads, but actually when a car passes you and the occupant always waves at you, and you see a couple of cars every half hour or so, it's not that bad walking on those roads. And also part of it is on something that they call old roads, which is the old road, so it's completely empty. But cyclists and walkers broadly do the same route. The cyclists do an extra bit up to Barra, the walkers stop in Stornonway. For walkers, the southern islands you could associate more with beaches, and the northern islands you could associate more with moorland and bogs. And probably in Barra, the second island you come to, has probably got the most elevation gain or loss. It's not excessive. Anybody who's done hill walking, it's not excessive. You have 6 causeways and 2 ferries between the islands, and between the last 2, Harris and Lewis, you're essentially just walking over a bridge. You don't really realise you've gone from one island to another. The causeways, they're all very easy. The road has a lane in each direction, so there's more than enough space. Little thing about bogs. Yeah, bogs can be extremely wet. They were fairly wet for us, but I would say you just have to get used to getting your feet wet. And even when you follow the turf paths, they disappear at stages and you do have to find your own way. Beaches, just amazing, just amazing. You'll find yourself all alone on a beach for 5 kilometres. We took some small binoculars to look at the bird wildlife. I'd highly recommend that. And seals and things. But yeah, the beaches in the south are incredible. Road walking, about 50% of it is road walking. So prepare for that. The third sort of area to chat about is accommodation. Now, obviously, if you are walking, you can wild camp. It's Scotland, you can wild camp. But we had a combination of wild camps, camping in campsites, some hostels, and some B&Bs, whether it's through Airbnb, booking.com, hotel, whatever, but accommodation. If you are a walker and a cyclist, you can literally walk into a campsite and there'll be space for you. They're huge. I'd recommend ringing the day before just so they're aware, but you have no issue. If you're in a camper van or whatever, yes, you book in advance and you may or may not get in, just depends. But certainly the campsites we used, they could have got 10 times the number of campers in there without any problem. Actual accommodation is pretty scarce on the islands. As you go further north, there is more accommodation, but in the southern islands, there's not as much. A lot of the accommodation is booked up months in advance, and we got accommodation by booking a few days in advance, and we got some cancellations for people who'd missed a ferry or were just not coming. But if you're relying upon accommodation, my advice would be to book in advance. Okay, the next subject is the weather. It's windy. It's probably windy every single day of the year. It just gets stronger in the winter and autumn months than it is in the spring and summer months. So we've taken refuge, but it is windy all the time. It is exposed. There aren't many trees. You will feel the wind. In the sort of May to September time, it doesn't really get above 60, 65 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the winter time, yes, it can get very cold, but it doesn't really get excessively cold, but you will always have the wind. From mid-September to March, you could probably expect it's going to rain every single day. And in fact, on one of our days in May, we started off in the sunshine, it then started to rain. We then had more sunshine, then we had a hailstorm. We had more sunshine, then it rained. and we finished the day in sunshine. But because it's so windy, all the rain and hail pushes through very, very quickly. So it was never raining for more than 15, 20 minutes at any one time. We went in May, which was sort of almost pre-midges. So I can't speak to what the bugs are like, but I don't think they're quite as bad on the Outer Hebrides as they are if you're in the West Highland Way or the Great Glen Way. But certainly you're walking across bogs, so if it's muggy and not a lot of wind across bogs, you will see bugs. But as I say, we didn't see many. We didn't use bug spray at all on the whole trip. And then the final sort of little section is just experiences as a hiker. Water. We didn't filter water at all. There were enough places to get water. If you're carrying a 2 or 3 litre bag, you'll come across somewhere to get water somewhere during the day, whether it's at a ferry terminal or a cafe or a B&B, or you just knock on somebody's door and ask for some water. You do not need to filter water. There is enough out there. You just have to be a bit cuter about how you get it, when you get it, and how long you carry it for. Buses. These are island buses. They don't go to a bus stop, wait there 2 minutes and then move on. They just continually drive. And if they see somebody who needs picking up, the person just puts out their hand, the bus stops, you get on, you just say where your end destination is, you pay your £2, it's fixed at £2. And sure enough, when it gets to that destination, whatever it might be, one of ours was, the Co-op in Stornonway, they stop at the Co-op in Stornonway. They are island buses. It's not a normal bus service. And it's pretty clear the bus drivers know most of the locals they're picking up and ferrying around, because as they get on the bus, they exchange pleasantries and, how's Dave? Whatever it might be. So it's a very different bus service to get used to. But as a hiker, it's quite useful. 3 things to prepare yourself for if you're hiking is 1, road walking. Doesn't matter that there aren't a number of cars flying by. Road walking is on concrete, and that is tough, and that's 50% of the walk is on roads. The second thing is wind. It will be windy every single day, and some places you are extremely exposed. There aren't that many forested areas. You certainly don't walk through any, and those that there are in the Northern Islands. So wind is a factor. Third item are bogs. Walking through a bog. When you are off-road, you'll probably, for 70% of the off-road that you do, it'll be across a boggy area. Now they do have these things called raised turf paths. Yeah, look at this. Which is a way of getting across a boggy area, but they're not maintained, and you will have to walk through some bog or work your way around it. So beware of that. And then the final thing in this section are the people. Unbelievably friendly. They may well speak Gaelic, but they all spoke English. But they're very friendly, very talkative, very friendly, very talkative, and very supportive. We went to one post office store, can't remember which island it was on, and we did buy some stuff, but we asked the lady in there where were the closest toilets. And she turned around and said, you can use mine. It's in the storeroom back there. Just go through. And so we used her toilets. As I say, the people there are extremely friendly. It's pretty clear as an island life, they all support each other, but they're friendly, talkative, and they do make part of the journey. So that's it. Just a few pointers about the Hebridean Way. It's worth doing. It's a great walk. It's out the way. It's something different. And hopefully I've given you a few pointers that will help you on your journey. Good luck.
Smash that like button. Woo!
Like and subscribe.